and the students in there. Kids are different now, as I've realized the last 2.5, 3 weeks of being in the classroom than they were 3 years ago. Some of you have probably seen this posted on social media. The 7th graders today in the classroom, their last normal year of education was when they're 4th graders, right? 1st graders didn't even have kindergarten really, if you were in a school that had to shut down. Your juniors were in 8th grade, the last time they had a normal school year, right? For our generation, we can look back at 9/11. We just had the 20th anniversary of 9/11. That was a very impactful moment in my life. It was a catalyst for me getting into education. It was interesting listening to the different conversations that happened. I was actually out in industry. I had taken 2 years off of college and found a great job that I loved. And then 9/11 happened. For me, that was instantaneous, right? For us, it was, we had 2 hours of watching the buildings hit and then fall down. These kids have been living 2 years in slow motion with all of this tragedy, this pandemic, something that's severely affected them. And this is where when both Wendy and Todd especially hit this, is the kids are not dumb. These kids are smart, and these kids really need to be challenged. And we need to challenge them more now than anything else. Just like our teams need to shake off that rust, our students need to relearn how to socialize. They need to learn how to be in a learning environment. They need to know how it is to have fun, because fun for a lot of my students right now is right here. And it's a battle that I face every day, not only just for my own students, but for my children. A lot of times for them, fun was right here. Got to a point this summer, I've got 2 younger daughters and a tablet, and fights would break out. And we would just notice that their behavior is very different. We took that tablet away for a month. They're outside playing, they're inventing new games. My oldest daughter is telling the younger daughter how to speak during their little play sessions. So Sadie would have to mimic or parrot what Avery is saying. And I would just laugh, thinking this is what we're missing with a lot of these kids right now, not only in my household under my roof, but as we get back in that classroom, and as you get back into yours. Where are we now again, or where are we? A major concern for organizations as we get back to where we were. Again, however, you have a new team, different set of rules, expectations, policies that you got to adhere to, and they're coming in from all different directions. And this is where that coach versus mentor mentality really needs to be taken a look at. Sometimes I'm a coach and sometimes I'm a mentor, and I got to know when to switch that hat, and it needs to be almost instantaneous. There's some of these things, especially with some of our mentors. I do have a couple of clips here. You're not in Kansas anymore. I'm going to refrain from playing them. One of them is from the actual Wizard of Oz movie, where she gets to the yellow brick road and she looks at Toto and she's like, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto, and that's where we kind of think we are. And then the other one is from, well, it's a little darker movie, and there's aliens attacking the humans, and they're like, we're not in Kansas anymore, and that kind of feels like where I'm at sometimes. We're not going to go there, yep. So that's kind of where I feel like I'm playing in between these two worlds a lot, is that, okay, we're in something new and different, and I like new and different, I like change, but the change we're feeling right now sometimes isn't as warm and fuzzy. It's more dark and foreboding, it seems. So where are we? Developing a plan for reintegration. So this is kind of where SWOT's going to come in just a bit. This is where my team is at right now. So my large group meeting last Wednesday ended with the idea that if you are interested in having a leadership role, if you're looking at being a part of resetting this culture, following our LGM this coming Wednesday, we're going to start the process of taking a look at our team vision, our team motto, our team mission statement, and going through the SWOT analysis. And then that'll follow up with goal setting, our 1, 2, 3 priority, and that sort of stuff. Understanding your strengths, weaknesses, celebrating those success, and understanding failures happen. And I like the fact that you talk about failures happening fast and happening often. It's a mantra that we believed in for a long time. The environmental scan, and that's not looking out here. Wendy and I were discussing the prairie is starting to go away. They're starting to build new buildings. It's not the environmental scan this way. It's more, what does this team look like? What does our shop space look like? We haven't been in our shop for a number of months or even years. Are the tools still up to date? There's some things that we need to take care of that we need to put on this board. Input from mentors. It's always great to get that input from the mentors. Right now, it's hard to get mentors into my building. They have the same concerns that us teachers do every time I walk in. There are times where I walk in to my building and I'm like, oh, a mask. I forgot my mask. Oh, we don't have masks anymore in Becker. You can still wear them, but it's not normal or it's not mandated. Input from the team, understanding, again, you've got students that have not been on a real field for 2 years, or they won't be on a real field for 2 years when they finally hit that, right? 2020 was, we had Duluth and we had Grand Forks. That was it. So if you're lucky enough to get to those, great. But it might have been 3 years before that for some of these teams, right? And so you might not have any of those members back on there. And then again, the team organization, understanding how things all kind of play together. Is this team going to look like what it did 3 years ago? On my team, we have 11 different departments traditionally, at least we have the last 3 years before this. Before that, we had 2 captains. And before that, we had 2 different houses that we operated under. So my team has always flexed how our organization is going to be depending on the talent I have coming back. And fortunately, we got to a point where we were steady enough where we just kept our 11 departments. But that's all going to have to be readdressed for us. It's going to be a little bit different as we take a look at it. It's a lot of information that we've already covered in the other 2, but here's where I'm at now. And this has been a lot of soul searching, looking at my own classes over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, not understanding why things are different, not understanding the students that I have in my classes and the students that are coming in for robotics. It's not that they're not engaging, they're just engaging very differently. I had a long conversation with one of my former colleagues. She was at a local district. She actually walked out of the classroom a week and a half ago. She quit. 4th grade teacher, couldn't handle the kids anymore, walked out, I'm done. 3 years from retirement, not coming back. Lack of administration support when she needed it. Kids were unruly, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not what I'm seeing in my classes. I'm seeing kids that just don't engage or don't ask the questions anymore. We're having this weird culture reset, not just on robotics teams, but I truly believe across everything where we have people involved, right? So again, just stop. This is a time to connect with the students. I need to connect with my students now more than ever. And again, I think it's funny having myself and Todd and Corey, who really don't get into the warm and fuzzies, now like waist deep into the warm and fuzzies. This is a time to get to know the students and understand truly who they are and what makes them tick, because it's not the same as it was before. Okay, understand their likes, their dislikes. That jumped fast. But really just get to know them, understand who they are and that sort of thing. I think that's where we're at right now before we can start reinvesting in the team culture. And I did talk about resetting, but it's not resetting. It's really reinvesting in this, reinvesting in what's important for your ideals. And how do we even find those? We need tools in order to start reinvesting in these. It's time for the interest inventories, right? We've all taken the interest inventories to find out who we were, or what kind of jobs we wanted way back in high school or even possibly in college. Yes, you're all understanding interest inventories. These students, I don't know how many of them have had interest inventories, because when we're learning off tablets, right, over the last 2 years, these kinds of soft skills have dropped off. Getting a kid to understand basic math principles is a little bit higher on the hierarchy of math classes, whereas my own son, who's now an 8th grader, didn't even get a technology education class as a 7th grader. And as a tech ed teacher in that same district, I had many meetings with his administration asking, why is my son not being serviced the way some of these other kids are being serviced? Because his interests are directly in tech ed. He wants to build and work with his hands. He's not going to sit through a math lesson, especially online. That's not going to be where he's at. So getting those interest inventories, there's a lot of free ones online. This personality color training, I don't know how much this has gone out there. Well, 10 years ago, this was key for education. Everybody went through color training, and there was a lot of different people out there peddling color training, right? And I thought it was a big joke. I thought it was goofy until I was sitting in a meeting one day, and I realized as a yellow that the other people in the room that were yellow were my administrators, and I didn't connect with the reds that were the other tech ed department people, and I felt really odd. Ooh.
We had a
Personality. I like this. So this is good. So he's a green, right? So I can see that with you. So, oh my gosh. So we might have to have a session just on color training because it is.
I use the Eagle Center and
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's another one that has 16 different. They'll use. Yep. Yep. So we had this. We had to have it on our staff. Whatever they're called. I never wear my badge, so I don't know. We had to wear them on our badges, and you could instantly tell. And it was interesting because I started changing the way that I would talk to people based on that stupid little color here that was on their badge. And we're like, oh, geez, you're an orange, so you're really hard working, you're driven, but you do have that softer side where we're willing to stop and help people out. Or you're red, which my entire department's red. And it was business all the time. Why are we talking warm and fuzzies? We need to get down to the brass tacks with this. Let's get moving. And again, I'm a yellow. So with yellow, I don't do details at all. Like details don't matter in my world whatsoever. I'm overarching. I want to see kind of where things need to go to. Long-term planning, but not the detail planning. Sound familiar, Todd? Does it hit me right on like, yep, that's who I am, okay? That is who I am. And understanding that really does help not only yourself, but help other people who don't know you to deal with you on a daily basis, right? So like that color training, and again, there's a ton of information out there. You just Google color training. There's a lot of free ones. Stick to the ones that have 4 colors because it's just a lot easier. The ones that are set up where it's actually a lot of different acronyms with it, like the EJTWs or whatever they are. That one blows your mind with that one, but it's way too deep for the kids, I think, at this point.
Depends on who you have doing it.
It could be.
Thing for your team.
Yep.
Because I've done a number of different ones to do the captain's training. Really, and what I tell them all the time is this is about being able to communicate, like you said, Alex. This is not one personality is good over another. This is you need to know who you're talking to so that you can get along and move forward. And it just helps if how to classify people. If you kind of know that you're not the same personality, it so helps you.
Yeah.
I think you should collaborate all the different. The gallop that we did at work on more.
Yeah, if you go through the training, just so your team understands where they're at with it. Like, again, the one that we did, I was fairly early on in my teaching career. I just remember the lady wore a leopard suit, and that threw the whole meeting off because every time I looked at her, she's in a leopard suit, like head to toe. So it didn't help. It didn't help the buy-in process. Let's just say that. But it did over time as we started working with it. Went through a couple more. She stopped wearing the leopard outfit. It was good. But understanding, again, just who your students are, time to connect with the students and the mentors. Like we talked about this, the fun aspect of it, right? We're still a team that operates on a 6-week build season, but we try to incorporate fun. And the nice thing is the game pieces from the past few years do help incorporate fun, especially if you are into dodgeball, which some of our robotics kids just aren't into dodgeball for, I don't know why reasons, but they see those dodgeballs and they start quivering in fears, run to the corners. I don't get it, but. And of course, the mentors alike. Want a successful team in the future? Again, finding out where your team is really at, finding out where they're coming from, and then find out where you could be going. I'm going to get into those, how you get to that point. And for us on Becker Robotics, it's really leaning on our motto, on our mission statement, going back to that constantly. We're trying to get our core values really stapled down. I haven't made time in the last 2.5, 3 years with the core values. It's time for us to really take a look at that for my team as well. So where are we going? Again, finding your success by plotting out your team's map. I'm going to get into that in just a bit. I know I don't have a ton of time, so I'm flying through this. If your students know what's important to them, you're on your way. If your mentors understand what's important to the team, you are on your way. These two things have to happen, maybe not simultaneously, but if your students understand what's important to the team and the mentors are also part of that process and understand why it's important to the team, it goes a lot further than telling a mentor that's coming in at 5 o'clock, hey, the team really wants to do this. I got to go, see you later. There's not a lot of information that was just presented there. The mentor's thinking, why are we even bothering with this exercise today? I thought we decided that we're going to be working on an arm. Why is there a scissor lift sitting in front of me? Do you like scissors? Again, where are we going? Reconsider your team's values. If you do have those values set up, looking at them again, going through that. This is an important part of getting a new team up and started, or again, shaking off that rust. Recreate your team's vision or motto. We do take a look at our motto every single year when we start with the leadership team. Addressing your team's mission statement and visiting what goals are important to your team. And I'm not talking just about your team goals, but that 1, 3, 5, or 10-year goal plan that you may have set up, or maybe you're not set up yet with. Tracking that is greatly important. It has been greatly important to the success of my own team. I know that they have something to shoot for. Team's values. Again, these are the building blocks for the team culture. First has this set of core values they put out a number of years ago. They're great core values. They're really all-encompassing for a FIRST Robotics team, but maybe your team doesn't adhere directly to the same terminology, or maybe other things are a little bit more important than that. Again, it'd be wise to give them a good hard look. Here in Minnesota, we have a great resource. Again, I don't want to call them out by name, but we do have a great resource that does core values training. I've worked with a lot of teams. We have not gone through it yet. I'm not sure why, but I'm not sure if you're still working with that with teams. So good. So Yoji will talk about that. Again, I don't want to point them out directly, but I think we all had an idea of who that would have been. Team vision and model. These are the two building blocks that I look at as for the team culture itself, or at least identifying it when you're onboarding the new students. The team vision itself is an inspirational charge or statement that really is more about what are we doing here, right? Like, what is the purpose of the team other than to go out and build a robot? Or for the mentors, we've heard it earlier today, why am I going into these different schools after my job, right, and working with these students? The whole idea of what we're here to do versus what we're trying to accomplish is greatly important when you're taking a look at your team vision. The 4 Bs, this is a nice one that we've looked at a few times within our team, really just incorporating this into how your team is supposed to act, behave. This goes way beyond just in your lab. This goes to setting the groundwork for when you actually release these kids out into the other FIRST Robotics community. As in normal years, when you release them out into the community at a training event where there's 60 teams, or where we're at Duluth where there's 120 some teams, the last thing I want for my team is to have that bad reflection of other teams. Like, okay, you treat other teams like garbage. You were goofing off in the bathroom and making a mess in there. That's, again, the soft skills. Getting them to understand that they're not just representing themselves anymore when they're working with this team, but they are a reflection. They might be the only person that the other teams talk to from our team, FRC 4607. And if I can't get them to understand what our values are or our team vision is, then I've kind of lost the battle already when we head off the bus, right? If they're not getting this part, we're a little bit behind the page here. Team model, short descriptive phrase and statement about your team for FRC 4607. It's our second slide on every meeting that we have. You show up at Becker and there's a meeting going on. Our second slide is this right here. Innovation cannot happen in isolation. We truly believe this. We've talked about silos a little bit ago with Wendy. My team was really good early on about building silos. And for the last 8, 9 seasons or so, it seems, we've been doing everything we can to tear those silos down. The problem is, if you've ever been down Highway 10 coming from St. Cloud through Becker, the biggest silo right next to Highway 10, there's a big giant CIS logo on there. One of our sponsors, dealing with the plastics industry, they're like, hey, can we get your logo? We really like it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we thought they're going to put it on their shirts or something. All of a sudden, I'm sitting at Tom Thumb and I look across the street and I'm like, oh my God. About 60, 70 feet up in the air, and it's above their logo too. Yeah, so silos. So this innovation cannot happen in isolation. Again, it's one of those things where we push it with our kids and we ask them every day that they come in, okay, can you give an example of what happened today or this last week with this innovation? I mean, it's reflecting back so they understand the importance of this motto on our team. This is something that will not go away when we start revisiting or reinvesting in our culture. We traditionally revisit our motto every season. We've had this same motto since 2015. It has not changed since 2015. The kids like it once they understand what it's about. Once we start looking into it, they get it. And it's not just silos, 4607 being in its own silo. It's being silos within our own departments. And last year was absolutely torturous as the kids would come filtering in to the different doorways depending on which team they were on. Pretty soon? Okay. And we would shuffle them, and they had different routes that they would have to take to get to their different rooms for their different departments, and there they would sit for 2 to 3, 4 hours, depending on what they're doing that day, every Saturday. So how do you break out of those silos when the kids are literally put into these little rooms as silos? It was a struggle. It was a very big struggle for us, and it's been a breath of fresh air not having to deal with that so far. Our team mission statement, for us, it's again on our third slide, every single one. It's a little longer, but again, it's empowering those students to understand this is their team. The mentors are going to work beside them. This is their team to start learning how to have those soft skills, understanding that this isn't just about robotics. This is also building for business, marketing, that sort of thing. We have a student that will read this, and it changes every week. I'll just call someone out and say, can you read this aloud to everybody else? And again, it's talking about the leaders, talking about valuing engineering and business, acting as a catalyst for culture in which STEM concepts are widely celebrated. We've had this mission statement since 2012, and we were working with 2177 and 1816 a few years ago at Visitation Catholic, and a judge advisor from Michigan called BS on us, and I had to pull it up and show him, yes, this was our original statement that the team put together. We're going to revisit it again this year, but the kids don't like to do the wordsmithing, so I really don't think it's going to change anytime, and it still hits. So where are we going? Visit what goals are important to your team. So goal setting for us is always important, especially at this time of the year, not just on the team, but looking at the department and the team members themselves. Where do they want to be by the end of the year? And it could be as simple as, I want to be able to talk in front of people. We've had those types of goals set up. The 1, 3, 5 year goals, right? Look, forecasting out where do we want to be in 3 years. Most of these kids won't be on your team in 3 years, but where do they want this team to grow to? And then even 5 years, they're not going around. And then the 1, 2, 3 priority for us, it's always 1, 2, 3 priority. What's our number one priority this season, right? What is our priority that we, on our department or on our team or our own personal self, what do I need to keep in check every single time that I can walk in this building? And what 2 things are going to support that, right? And then it just cascades from there. And then the SWOT analysis itself. Do you want to go right now, Corey? Or sorry, Todd? Because
I'm hungry.
you're hungry? I'm hungry. It won't take much longer. Will I get a little bit after lunch then?
I'm looking at Lori because
How much time do you have? Otherwise, we can skip SWOT training. I can do it at another JUMPSTART. It's not a big deal to me. I've got the sheets here because I can just keep barreling through this stuff. I got no problem. What's the crowd consensus? Okay, let's decompress from everything.